Hello, hello. Welcome back if you're familiar, and welcome if you're new. My name is Jen, and I'm with innerworkcoaching.life. And today, well, I have like all these ideas. Let me just give you a quick peek here. That's one page, and then it goes on and on and on and on. So I'm just going to start somewhere, and hopefully the videos that I'm recording over the next few days will resonate with you. I'm also like kind of playing around with an idea for a new class, so we'll see how it all goes. But today I wanted to focus on how our attitude and our like disposition, I guess, and our mindset toward various things, including ourselves and others, actually translates into our behaviors, whether we know it or not, whether we're aware of it or not, and whether we like what it's doing to us or not, right? This is what they mean when they say that life happens through you, not to you, is because everything that we hold as beliefs in here throughout our entire body system, right? No matter what those beliefs are, and there's hundreds of thousands of beliefs, right? So you can't just um, think of it in black and white terms. It's all on a spectrum. And so whatever beliefs we hold will actually influence our behaviors in our everyday lives, right? So what do you think the difference might be between a person who loves people and thinks that people are blessings and thinks that people are amazing and creative and connected and beautiful and basically is in love, right, with people, with humanity, with the collective, and shows love to themselves, right, versus a person who calls humanity idiots and sheeple and lumps people into categories and groups and gives them kind of negative connotation labels, right? Labels are powerful. They're very powerful. And a lot of people don't understand how powerful our words and labels are. But this is one of the ways in which we feed ourselves, our consciousness, the belief systems that we wind up with, right? So and then on top of that, everything that we hold true in here is reflected to us out there, right? So, and this will go kind of hand in hand with the whole self-empowerment victim mentality thing that I've been thinking about too, because I've noticed that when I sit there and I have hold the belief that I'm cursed, or that people are out to get me and attack me, or that people are out to fuck me over, then chances are it will happen that way. It will play out that way because that is what I am projecting into my reality, right? And so that is how it plays out. Now, if I'm projecting into my reality that, you know what, there's love here, there's nothing but love, there's family, there's creativity, there's expression, there's freedom to be yourself, there's acceptance, there's all kinds of levels of awesomeness, right? Now, if I hold that belief, then that is what will come to my reality and play out for me, right? So, really, long story short, I would just like to take a minute today and encourage you guys to catch yourself if you're dehumanizing anyone, if you're calling some group or some person names, even in your thoughts, because our thoughts have energy. Our thoughts, our emotions, our words, all of these are part of our consciousness, and this is how we create our reality, right? So if you're throwing it out there, people are fucked up, people suck, people are terrible, people are sheeple, people are idiots, people are, whatever. If that's the kind of attitude that you're throwing out there into the world, it will be echo reflected back to you in your life experience, right? Now, if you have faith that things are always working out for you, that things are working out exactly the way that they're supposed to be, for example, right? All in divine timing, which is always, always true, you know, whether it seems like that to you or not. I mean, our limited human consciousness or brain can't necessarily always wrap itself around the reality, right? Because there's a lot of unseen elements, and the past, the past ideas of science and logic and what have you, kind of go against what is being discovered and uncovered as truth now, right? So if you're clinging to those old beliefs, of course it's going to clash, you know, with the new ones. But one of the easiest ways for me that I found to see a happier echo reflection, so to speak, is by just not projecting my crap onto other people and not dehumanizing people, because even even narcissists and abusers, listen, if we dehumanize them, then we are energetically sending them the message that they cannot be helped, that there's nothing that anyone can do, and they're stuck to be that way, right? Being that way, being aggressive and abusive and whatever. However, I don't necessarily think that that's true. I would like to think that someone who has been abusive in the past has the option and the free will and the power of consciousness to actually change that if they should desire to do so. And I've seen it done. So I really, I don't agree anymore with lumping all these people into one label, you know. Um, people who, um, people who are abusive really tend to come from abusive environments, so they're just playing out the cycle that's been programmed into them, you know, which doesn't make it okay by any means. It's not an excuse, and it's not a reason to perpetuate the abuse, but it does make it a little bit more understandable and a little bit easier to forgive, even if you have to do that from a distance, you know. And then when we start to realize that abusers were abused, and really the abuser and the quote unquote victim or target were not so different. I have recently made the connection that both versions of um, coping after having been abused, right? You're either in victim mentality and you turn it in on yourself, or you're in victim mentality and you aggressively, like, on other people, right? And that's where abuse comes from. So those who don't harm others end up harming themselves, and those who don't harm themselves end up harming others and also harming themselves through that, right? And those who harm themselves end up harming others through inflicting pain on themselves. It's a vicious, vicious, vicious cycle, right? But the thing that is in common with these is that they're both disempowerment mentality and victim mentality. And a lot of that is blaming, like the blame game, you know, blaming someone outside of yourself, blaming this thing over here and that thing over here. Right now, I am seeking help from within the broken systems, and the systems are broken. I'm very well aware. And so I'm kind of like, well, very skeptical of even asking for help, because I don't want to spend the rest of my life having to make up for shit that I was helped with, having it lorded over me like by the previous abusers, you know what I mean? And the system does not necessarily work, you know? So, um, unfortunately, I also know that whatever worries I'm projecting into the systems, I am likely to see and notice. So these are just some thoughts about like empowering yourself. You know what I mean? Like rather than sitting there and blaming, right? Blaming other people, blaming whatever. You really got to take some time and think about, okay, how what aspects of these things am I responsible for? What parts of this are um, things that are either A, within my control, or B, that I can empower myself to change, right? And so that is something that I've been really thinking about, between the attitude translating into how we see other people, which this is very dangerous. If you continuously watch the news and watch them dehumanizing certain groups, especially if they're biased, or if you're like constantly saying, oh, well, this particular group of people is a bunch of idiots, or this particular group of people is completely stupid, and treat them like they are less than, then that immediately gives you a superiority complex, right? Which is ego, which is not healthy. And seeing yourself as superior and seeing others as inferior is going to bring those types of experiences to you, and maybe even reflect the opposite back to you as well, because people will sense that energy about you and they will start treating you the same way, and dehumanizing you and judging you and labeling you into, whatever categories that they see appropriate. You know what I mean? So, um, like one of the ones that I struggle with is people who have a religious background, who are very, very like into the Bible and church and things like that, because that was one of the methods that was used on me to abuse me and manipulate me into making decisions that I did not want to make, right? Decisions that were completely life changing. And they always used fear mongering, and obligation, like, oh, well, you should be grateful, and you should blah, 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 and you owe us this and you owe us that because look at everything we've done for you, kind of thing, right? And guilt tripping. Guilt tripping was one of the huge ones when I was growing up. Like, oh man, it was just terrible. And I remember the exact moment where I lost my faith, quote unquote, lost my faith. And it's not that I lost my faith, it's that I lost faith in the false idol that is religion. And basically the guy was like, now let's place guilt into our hearts for our sins. Now, if you've done something wrong, you already feel guilty naturally, you know, especially if your moral compass is in the right place, or if you're, aware and empathic. But if you beat up on yourself and you drill yourself into this hole of laws and rules, and I can't do this, I can't do that, and all these little things are going to send me to hell, you end up in a really, really afraid, scared place. And fear, guess what fear becomes? Fear becomes aggression. Fear becomes violence. Fear becomes force, because you're trying to force other people to have the same beliefs as you, because you're so convinced that it's the right way, that if other people don't comply, then your immediate belief is, oh my God, their soul is going to hell and they have to be saved. And oh my gosh. And it's all with the best of intentions, but it fucks everybody up emotionally on a very, very deep level, you know? And that, I think, is what they mean when they say the road to hell is paved in good intentions, is people fucking each other over and basically like trying to force and coerce and manipulate other people, rather than turning the mirror on themselves and saying, why do I feel the need to control everybody outside of me when I'm the only one in my control? You know? it's just some things to think about. Now, I'm probably going to do like a more in-depth video on both of these topics, but these were the most important ones that I wanted to kind of throw some thoughts out there about, and I felt kind of compelled. I didn't really want to wait. I know I need a little more planning for these topics, but I think that part of this is really going to be a part of a new class that I want to create. So I'm hoping that once I flesh everything out, that it'll be really, really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and post this on my YouTube and stuff. And if you guys would be interested in learning more about self-empowerment versus victim mentality and how to kind of feel your way out of victim mentality, um, I am currently working on this, and it's challenging at times. It really is. It can be. But as I'm working on it, I'm also helping my children. I have a couple teenagers, and they are dealing with the same consequences of emotional and narcissistic abuse that I am. We're we're healing. We're working on it. You know what I mean? And everyone has gotten a lot better at examining where things are coming from and what's really going on underneath. So that's pretty exciting. Doesn't mean that there aren't some tough days where people experience a lot of pain and depression and other symptoms, but those days are becoming fewer and further in between. So if I can do it and my teenagers can do it and I can teach my teenagers how to do it in, like language that they understand, then I'm hoping that I can teach more people how to do this process. So, yeah, I think that's everything. All right. So for now, I will talk to you later and I hope to see you in the next video. Namaste, my friends. If this resonates with you and you enjoy some of the points that I'm making or some of the ideas that I'm sharing, then I invite you to like and share and subscribe. And I also offer one-on-one coaching as well as my online classes. So if there is something that you want to work on, um, especially if it has to do with the stuff that's already out, but also if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions. I'm getting ready to also do some work about loneliness and how to feel less alone and more connected, because connection is our choice. We can choose whether we feel alone or connected, right? And also about um, I can't remember what the other one was, but the loneliness thing is really, really big. I used to feel so alone, and like nobody understood, like nobody gives a crap, nobody cares, nobody is there, to actually help or be a friend. But I realized that this is a flaw in my thinking. It's not a flaw that's somehow present in other people. See, when we really get down to it, it's everybody is doing the best they can with what they have. And some people we feel connected to, and then other people we don't. And then some people we feel connected to for a time, and then we drift apart, and other people we feel kind of not connected to, and then eventually we feel connected to them. And depending on how much we're growing and evolving and changing ourselves, we might not be connected to the same people all the time, and it can go in like cycles or phases, just like everything else. So I hope that you guys are having a beautiful week, and I will talk to you in the next video. Namaste, my friends. And again, like, share, and subscribe if this resonates.